Welcome to the CFO Track podcast. I'm your host, Tom Hunter, and every week I'll be bringing you stories from some of Australia's best and brightest CFOs and the lessons they learnt along the way. My goal for the podcast is to provide learning and development opportunities for those wanting to get to the level of the guests on this show, but they just didn't have the access to those lessons otherwise. Let's get into it. On today's show, I'm speaking with Rafael Pasquet, the CFO of Mercedes-Benz Financial Services Australia. Across 17 years and 6 countries with Mercedes, Rafael discusses how to lead authentically, the power of storytelling, and the importance of working with purpose. He also gives practical advice on how to start your non-exec director portfolio. It's a brilliant episode, and I hope you enjoy it. So here we go. This episode is brought to you by Tallystone.com, the all-in-one data room, capital register, and board workflow in one continuous system of record. Check out the detail mid-episode. Rafael Pasquet, welcome to the CFO Track podcast. How are you?
Very good. Thanks a lot for having me, Tom.
Absolutely. How's the week been?
Really good. Very soccer intense weekend.
Soccer?
And happy. Yeah, soccer. The whole family is about soccer these days.
Yeah, right.
And
is it local you guys playing or is in watching international?
Everything. Like my boy plays, I play, we watch the games. Really good.
Family bonding, I love it. And so I've already given the listeners a bit of an intro to you and your situation, but I can never do it justice. So it'd be great to hear from yourself, bird's eye view of yourself and what you're working on at the minute.
Yeah, no, happy to do so. So my name is Rafael, 17 years with Mercedes. Worked with them in a lot of countries.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've just found our new home here down under, and we really like it.
Yeah, nice. So the whole idea behind the podcast is to give up-and-coming finance people an opportunity to learn from mentors like yourself. So it'd be great to hear, what was it that drew you into accounting? What was it about finance? Where did it start for you?
Maybe if you go very long ago, there was a flea market when I was a 7-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And I only know this story from my mom, but apparently I was buying a pair of boxing gloves from someone else.
Yeah.
And then I sold them individually for the same price that I paid for the whole.
Yeah. How long did it take you to sell them? Or was it pretty easy work?
Yeah, it was pretty quick. Yeah. I think it was just in one morning. So maybe the commercial side was already in me back then.
Yeah, right. Okay. And then further down the track, did you do accounting at uni? Or when did you get to that point?
Yeah, look, I always wanted to study medicine, and I was working as a paramedic for a couple of years. So finance wasn't actually my first choice, but maybe because I'm good at it, I found my way back into it.
Yeah.
And then I studied economics and business administration in Germany.
Yeah.
I have a bachelor's and a master's from the Hohenheim University.
Yeah, gotcha. And so you stuck a little bit with the paramedic stuff for a bit, didn't you?
Yes, I stayed with that for a while. So I started doing it instead of the mandatory army service, which back then was still on in Germany.
Yep.
And then I stayed for a couple of years after that. Did it full time, and then it actually paid for my studies. Worked every Sunday night.
Uni?
Yes, every Sunday night. You got the weekend surcharge and the Sunday surcharge. And it's also a very interesting night to work as a paramedic. A lot of happening. And then in the semester breaks, which are rather long in Germany, you have like these very long breaks between the semesters. Okay. I was then also working full time. And really a very purpose-driven, very hard, but very purpose-driven job.
Yeah, it must have been stressful. I don't think I could handle it.
Look, you get a feel for it, and you start to understand what's normal. Normal for a paramedic obviously looks different than normal for a CFO.
Sure.
But you never come home and ask yourself whether you had a purpose-driven day. Yeah. Because every day is very, very real. But it is tough at times. And I know we're going to maybe speak about it later. I now reconnected to the time working as a non-executive director also for a non-for-profit. I started recently looking after mental health for emergency services. Yeah. So I think it's still something that I'm deeply connected to.
Yeah, cool. What do you think that did for you for setting up your career, though, getting a feel for either pressured situations or just purposeful work? What do you think it did for you?
Look, a lot of people in management say, hey, people, we are not saving lives here. I actually know what I'm talking about. I think I did CPR a couple of 100 times.
Yeah.
I would wish that I would always be so reflected to keep that balance and think back of that time and say, we're not saving lives. In reality, though, I think the daily action sometimes gets you, but it's always good for me to, when I then reflect and go back, that we are actually in corporate life, not saving lives.
Sure.
And if you really think what's the worst that can happen, the consequence is usually pretty limited. So I think it's very important to keep that perspective, and I think makes you a better leader and a better CFO.
That's good advice. And then, so where did the Mercedes-Benz stuff start? Was it straight out of uni?
Yeah, look, during university, I had an internship with them down in South Africa.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I always wanted to work on the other side of the world, and as it sometimes go, I had some connections there and got an internship there. Yeah. And then one thing led to the other. The CFO from South Africa, or actually the head of controlling, recommended me for another internship in Singapore. Yeah. Also with Mercedes, a couple of years later. That was always in those semester breaks of uni. And then I got a recommendation from there for a management trainee role in Germany after uni. So it started early. I tried, however, also some other companies with some internships, some investment banking with Deutsche Bank, some venture capital with Bosch Ventures, some consulting with Deloitte, corporate restructuring. So it was really interesting. But I think this first contact with Mercedes kind of then determined what came after. And
there was you jumped around within that role worldwide too. So was it Poland and Sao Paulo as well?
Yes, correct. Yeah. So after those 2 internships, I then joined that management trainee program. And the way it works, they send you within 12 months to 4 different roles around the world. Yeah, okay. So it was really, really cool. Worked in Sao Paulo in our truck controlling, in the manufacturing controlling. So it's really real because every day at lunch, you can walk through the production plant where they put together the truck chassis and the engine, which is called like the marriage. So you see how that is created. So that was in the truck business. Yeah. Then I worked in Poland for a couple of months in the car business. Okay. Then went back to Stuttgart head office, worked in the truck participation controlling. So that was all the participations that Mercedes had at the time. Yeah. And then also in our finance transformation program, where I then also started full time after my trainee rotation. Right.
So how different is the business in each of those locations? Obviously, there's going to be some consistencies, and the culture is alike and should be. But how different is working in the same business in different locations like that?
I really learned to value diversity. It's obviously very different. I have a bit of a South American background as well. My dad's from Uruguay. Okay, so obviously cool. Sao Paulo was nice in a way to me. A lot of soccer after work and very lively. Then Poland was maybe one of the most welcoming places I've ever been. I think they're known for how welcoming they are, and I could really feel that. But as you said, working for Mercedes, always for the same brand, there's some commonalities and there's a joint understanding of culture and values. And I think that's the nice thing in a multinational. You can work at different places in the world, very different roles. All of them are almost like small to medium entities, right? Obviously now working in Australia, I'm maybe having a chat with my boss in Germany once a month for not even an hour. So you're almost like your own enterprise, medium enterprise, but you always have that joint umbrella of joint values and obviously the joint product. And Mercedes is a fantastic product. Obviously, you can resonate to everywhere.
Yeah, cool. And so after that talent program, you moved into a chief of staff role. Now, I don't completely understand what a chief of staff does because they're very different depending on what a business is. Because you see quite a lot in the tech space, particularly in scale up and startup tech businesses. So for Mercedes-Benz, what was the chief of staff role actually doing?
Yeah, that was, so I spent 2 more years in that finance transformation office in head office after the program and then moved to the chief of staff role to the global CFO of the financing business. Yeah. So that was pretty much where everything came together for 40 countries worldwide. Okay. And good question. I would say it's everything and nothing. I mean, obviously you need to keep the the shop together. So you need to keep the CFO office running. You need to make sure that the board preparation is done, investor relation presentations are done, communications is done, like all of these things. But I had maybe one of my most inspiring bosses back then, our back then global CFO, who pretty much said, as long as you have the core aspects of your role in order, you can pretty much get involved in everything you want. Like he would never not allow me to go to a meeting. Of course, if it was like a personnel discussion, obviously not. But if any content topic, I could just invite myself and sit there as his consultant kind of thing and listen. And I would obviously, as I gained confidence, was then always also getting more and more active in these meetings and was asking questions. And I think in this chief of staff roles, you should never forget that you're acting with a lot of borrowed power. So you're very powerful because of the person you work for, but it's not you who has the power. And it's very important in those roles to understand while you have a seat at the table and while everybody would allow you to contribute and ask. And I had this fantastic boss who actually wanted me to. You also have to know the limits. And because after that chief of staff role, you will eventually work for one of those people, right? Because all the vice presidents were reporting into him. So obviously after that chief of staff role, you will be likely placed under one of them. So it's always a good idea to understand your role. And
it must have been hard not to get carried away with that and just start doing whatever you want.
Yeah, look, I'm a person that likes to push boundaries and to challenge status quo, but I think I always do it with the respect for the people, and even if I'm sometimes getting a bit taken away or carried away in the discussion, I think people always understand why, and that it's for making things better and for the purpose.
Right.
So I can't remember any major event where I overstepped that. Maybe I let others talk about it. But it was just amazing, Tom, because I could go to all of these meetings. You're really at that central of power, right? At the Global CFO, everything comes together, and you really understand how an international enterprise across 40 countries, I think we had 130 billion euros on the books back then. That's more than 200 billion Aussies. So it's a massive operation. And to understand how that comes together, to see the leaders up front, to see how they steer the business, but to also experience when they struggle it's a very trusted space, that chief of staff role. So you're very close, not just to the business side, but also to the human side. And I think it was maybe one of the most rewarding times of my career.
So what are you actually doing on a day to day? What is it? Just all meetings, or is it quite finance focused as well? What are you doing?
I look, it's everything. I mean, you have to keep your own stuff under control. You see all the emails popping into the CFO's account, so you need to read it with another eye. At best, already carry topics when people come in, already start preparing them while he hasn't read them himself. Sometimes we'll be preparing for board meetings. Sometimes it would be for investor meetings. We had maybe big global communications going out to all our 10,000 employees. You have small items to look at. You have CFO succession, so you have HR topics you have to handle. So it's pretty much everything the global CFO does. Just like in terms of like whatever is on his agenda is on your agenda.
I think it's starting to get a much more popular role than it had been in previous years. And over the last couple of years, like the more people that I've talked to that have taken the role talk about how it's one of their favorite roles of all time. So I think it will start to get a bit more prevalent and common mainstream. Do you think there's any particular reason why it hasn't become a thing as regularly until now?
I think I can just speak for Mercedes there. It was always one of the most sought after positions. I mean, I was there, I finished it up 11 years ago, so it's a while ago, but even then everybody wanted those roles because, you get very close to the decision makers, you can learn a lot. I mean, there's also a bit of risk, right? If you're not performing in that role, it's very difficult to build a career thereafter. So there's also a bit of risk there. But it's if you do it right and you use it the right way and with respect and understanding what the role is, I think it is massive from what you can learn, but obviously also the connections you build because you have the best network you can imagine.
I know that to close a capital round, everything has to be spot on. But we've had our moments where we've had to scramble. The cap table is in a spreadsheet that might be right. The board resolutions are in a Dropbox that nobody's paying for and an email thread from 2022. And the data room, that was built on a Sunday night because the investor asked for it by Monday. We know better and we know how risky it is. Tallystone puts all of this in one place. AI-powered data rooms, capital register, board and shareholder workflows. One system that's always current, not just when an investor asks. I use it for story recruitment and it works like a dream to get set up. So make your job easier and de-risk the DD. It's the infrastructure that your corporate record should have had from day one. Start a free 30-day trial and get a live data room set up in 10 minutes. Use the promo code CFOTrack and find out more at tallystone.com. Let's get back to the show. Yeah, were there any additional projects that you were working on during that time outside the typical chief of staff stuff?
Yeah, look, I ended up being responsible for the global finance strategy. So together with a big consulting firm, we redesigned a complete finance strategy for Mercedes-Benz Mobility, and we're talking about a really big organization. And we built a CFO succession program, which I found really interesting, how to spot future talents and how to prepare them for a future CFO role. We developed a program together with the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management, how to prepare the people for that. And then I started small, became really big. The digital transformation of all our reporting and forecasting. So at the beginning, we received this, and again, we're talking 11 years ago, 12 years ago. We received this fantastic PDF report, 300 pages with all financials of all countries in the world, obviously very cumbersome to find information. So we built an iOS app, really a custom app. I must say, being so close to the Global CFO budget wasn't maybe the limiting factor here. So I had a lot of budget, I must admit that, but we built a state-of-the-art reporting app where we moved all the financial reporting to an iPhone iOS app. And further developed it for iPad as well. And it was really custom. It was, sorry?
What year was this?
This was 2014.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, cool. Was there anyone else doing anything similar to that at the time, like competition-wide?
No, I think, honestly, Tom, even today, this app, if we would commercialize it, I think it would still be benchmark because it is custom-made, right? I mean, you have all these Power BI and good reporting dashboards, but they are not custom-made. I know you can, with a lot of effort, you can also maybe create something similar, but it will never come close to a custom-made app that is tailored to your data model and where the data feed in the front and the UI UX is custom-made. I learned a lot about design thinking, about storytelling, how people want to consume information. So we didn't do it classical finance way, like this is the information, deal with it. But we really went out to the managing directors of the markets, to our global board that was working together with our global CFO, like, how do you want to consume information? At the end of the day, we had an app where once it had synced, back then, obviously connectivity, you sometimes had to sync the app for a minute or so. They could be on a plane offline, and they could see the financials for all our 40 countries across all KPIs, plan actual comparison, forecasting compared to other markets play around. We had a bit of gamification, like when people used it a lot, they could earn badges. We had it was really a good customer interface. And I think that's how finance people should present information, not the way they want to consume it, not the way they function, but the way their business partner functions. How do they want to consume information? What's the story behind the data? And present it in a meaningful way. And we used a lot of, we had a design thinking coach that we once got engaged that was actually an expert for developing industrial products, like things you can touch. But the way they work to understand how users interact with things is really interesting. And they would ask you in a normal, you would do something for 30 seconds, and they would interrupt you like every 5 seconds. Why did you do this? Why did you click here? Why did you look here on the screen? Like to really understand how you tick and how to make it smooth. And I really think what we developed back then taught me a lot about this how to provide information and how to empathize with other people.
You said you had a fairly significant budget. Are you able to share figures of what it took to pull it together?
I must have forgotten it, but it was definitely good. But I think we delivered to it. No one ever questioned why we're spending that money, because I think everyone was blown away. And I think it was so good, even if I then moved to my next job in Singapore, I had to take that responsibility with me, which was by the time very unique, that global function, like a global responsibility, like this digital reporting platforms, would not be done out of our global headquarters, but would move with a person to a region because they think it should be with the person that can do it best rather than making it mandated. It has to be out of head office.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say. Where do you go after that? Because you've built this awesome app that's being used across the globe and all that. How do you progress with the business following that? What happened next?
I look, it was really cool presenting that. I must say it was also fun, right? I mean, we had this global CFO town halls where we would meet once a year, a CFO meeting, and I was on stage and I could almost present like a Steve Jobs, right? Like, this is how we did it in the past, but this is not how we do it anymore. Then you have this nice videos, and you have this nice videos, and this is why we invented X. And this is it feels very techy, so it was maybe a function of the time because you had all these fantastic presentations and you could copy that. Yeah. But no, this was a time, and then and this was all still in this chief of staff role, and then from that I got promoted into a regional CFO role out of Singapore.
Yep.
And from a scope perspective, it was maybe the biggest role I ever had because I had to take the digital role into Singapore while the development team was out of Croatia and Germany. Yep. And then I became the CFO of 5 market CFOs reporting into me.
Right. So hold on. So that was your first CFO role, different country, and you're managing 5 CFOs.
Yeah, correct. That was,
how was that?
It sounds harder than it was, because I came freshly from the chief of staff role and I saw how my boss managed the global organization. I just tried to, what I liked and what I could see, I tried to translate it into my smaller world with 5 markets.
Yeah, okay.
I think sending a clear message also to the market CFOs, how much I respect them for their work and that I'm here to guide them maybe on strategic topics because it was a regional headquarter role. So I'm not here to do their day-to-day job, but how I could coach them and support them. And I think that worked quite well.
Yeah, right. So how do you build credibility with them when you haven't necessarily sat in the seat before and you're managing them to do their job? How do you build credibility with them?
Yeah, look, I actually learned it the reverse way. You're absolutely right, because usually people would work in a market and then go into a headquarter role. I started in head office, now I'm in the market. So maybe these days I understand some things better than I would back then. I think what makes me strong today, started maybe back then, is that seamless between operational, what happens in the market, to bring this to the big picture, and vice versa. I think where I could add a lot of value for this people gift in the bigger picture. Right. So how does what you do in Singapore, how does that link to a global strategy? Where does that sit? Yeah. And why are we doing global decisions that maybe on a first instance impact you locally and you don't understand? So I could explain that and explain strategy to them, because these were very operational CFOs and to help them understand the big picture and how it all comes together. Yeah. And likewise, being just open if you don't understand something, right? I never had an issue to someone reporting to me to say, look, you understand that better than me, please explain it to me, right? Yeah. And then obviously once you understand it, and most things, let's face it, in finance are understandable once you sit down, right? And then help them maybe with some outside-in questions, and that worked really well.
So you were saying before about the global or the group CFO when you're in the chief of staff role being one of the best leaders or the best CFOs that you'd worked on. What was it specifically about them that you took from that and took from their leadership style? What was it that was so good about it?
Yeah, that's a very important question, a good question. I think it's a few things. I would start with authenticity. Very authentic, just a good human being. Yes, having this big role, but not taking himself too serious. Yeah. I remember one instance. We had this crosstalk where then someone like 6 or 7 levels below him in the hierarchy would have the chance to talk to him, and he would come to have to present something. So this guy comes into the office very nervous. Our administrative assistant wasn't in that day, and then the global CFO, he sees how stressed that poor fella is. Goes to him and makes him a coffee. Like, if you want a coffee, goes to the coffee machine, makes a coffee for him, and just sits down with him and takes away that. I mean, everyone that has had to talk with people 2 or 3 levels above them knows how that might feel initially.
Yeah.
Obviously, having worked on that level, I can tell you these are normal people like everyone else.
Yeah.
Maybe they are a bit faster in decision making
Yeah.
and things like that, but these are just humans. And I think just being that human and just being authentic. And what I took from that for me, one of my most important topics in leadership is I don't want people to be someone else when they come to work. I don't want that when you come into our office to be the work Tom. I want you to be just Tom. Right? And be the best version of yourself and don't play a role. But that obviously requires that authenticity and also acceptance that everyone's different. But I think this is where you get the best out of people. And that's maybe one of the most important things I learned from him, being just who you are.
Yeah. And so how did the regional role go? You were there for a few years, I think.
Yeah, look, it was a bit intense. First of all, I had to take on this digital topic with me. I had my 5 market CFOs, and then after 1 month in the job, my boss got another job, and then all of a sudden I was responsible for almost 6 months for the whole of APAC. So I got the responsibility also for the larger markets like China, Japan, Korea from a finance side. That was a bit intense, I must say.
Yeah, right.
And then to make it even more fun, during that time, we made the decision to carve out China from region APAC into its own region. Right. So I also had to lead the financial side of that carve out into our own reporting unit. So it was really interesting. All of a sudden, I was back to all of these board meetings. Yeah. But not anymore as the chief of staff sitting there and whatever, but having to present how we're going to do that. Yeah. So honestly, I think I was doing maybe 3 jobs at once. And it felt, of course, great because you feel so important. You're flying to all these countries and you're going to all these big meetings and so on. But in hindsight, maybe the work-life balance wasn't in a good place. No. And my daughter was very young back then. So while it was fantastic for my career, there was also obviously downsides. And I'm not sure if I would do that in that same intensity again.
And then, so what prompted the move to Australia? Because not long after that, was it?
Yeah, it was not long after that. And I remember that event, Global Conference, and then my back then old boss takes me aside with a drink. Hey, Raf, okay, you've worked now global headquarter, regional headquarter. You need to get the market stamp to be credible for a bigger global role. Do you want to go to Sweden or you want to go to Australia?
Okay, yeah.
And obviously being from Germany, Sweden had its temptations because it would have been closer to home.
Sure.
But in Australia being such a cool place. And my wife said, and it was meant to be for 2 years, you know, it was 2 years. It was, so then we ended up in Melbourne, and this is now my 9th year. So,
Any plans to go home anytime soon? Or do you get back regularly?
Yeah, I get back regularly because I'm lucky enough that our head office is in Stuttgart, in Germany, and that's where my mom lives, my sister lives, and
nice. Quick one before we get back to it. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know that I recruit for senior finance professionals for high growth businesses. That's what I do outside of this show. My approach is built around storytelling. When I take on a search, I build a narrative around the business, who they are, what they're building, where they're going, and why that role matters. Before I reach out to a single candidate, I tell that story across multiple channels to my network of over 28,000 finance professionals in Australia, so that when I do start conversations, candidates already know who you are and there's a level of buy-in before I even contact them. So if you're a founder, CEO, or CFO that's thinking about a finance hire, even if it's early days, I'm always happy to chat. Whether that's a question, some free advice, or a sense check on what the market looks like. You can find me on LinkedIn or at storyrecruitment.com.au. All right, let's get back into it. So how's the role progressed? So what did you say? 8-9 years. So how did it start? What were the early challenges that you were working through?
Yeah, it was very interesting then having to learn a bit more the operational role. I mean, the regional roles, the global roles were obviously more strategic. While obviously with the CFOs reporting to you, you get a very good understanding on their challenges, but it's a different thing than to execute on these very detailed level operationally. And in the beginning, I really had to learn to do that. So not just to define strategy on a big picture, but to really have to operationalize it and implement it down. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so having to learn that it takes a lot of effort to really optimize things. But I also think that's what distinguishes Mercedes from other products, right? It's that not stopping at 95%, but going the last 5%.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're the only one in the room that wants that. Right? Yeah. Sometimes as a CFO, you're the only one who is interested in that last 5%. And then it can become very lonely if you're the only one that wants that.
Yeah.
But I always knew for what, and I think I'm pretty good in it, and really understanding these processes in detail. And nowadays, I think what really makes me a strong CFO is that I can really dive deep down in a process and in process diagram, process description, and really understand in 4IP, SOD topics, segregation of duties, where things go right or wrong. Yeah. But at the same time, I can also zoom out and explain it to a board member within 30 seconds without going to all of these details.
Yeah.
And I think this is what really Australia gave me, this last edition, this really going to the detail. We are so far away from headquarters. I need to steer this company as if it was my own.
Yeah.
And really be deep in the detail.
Do you think that's a pro or a con or both about being so far away?
Look, for me, it's a pro because I have that good understanding what's required globally. Yeah. I think for someone that only had that experience without understanding how these things get consolidated and how much information is lost along the way, yeah. and until things reach the top of the food chain, it might be sometimes difficult.
Yeah.
But for me, it was that last puzzle piece that I was missing, having the operational responsibility. And I'm also having the New Zealand CFO reporting into me, which is obviously a much smaller market where we have much less capacity. So we have to do things very smart because we simply don't have the resources there.
Yeah.
So I think it's gold for me to complete that picture.
And so how has your role changed in the 8 years you've been with the Australian entity?
And look at this, we had a lot of interesting projects during that time. When I came here, we were still responsible for our truck and bus business as well. Yeah. So I still remember during COVID, I mean, everyone was anyway overwhelmed with COVID, right? Working from home. How do we work from home? What is Microsoft Teams? I remember the school of my daughter had Teams faster on their computers than we had at work.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then like 1 week into COVID, we get that global email. Hey, guys, you have to deconsolidate and spin off your truck business by December.
Yeah, nice.
So you have the house on fire, obviously customers defaulting because credit problems. Yeah. You have everyone getting used to work from home, and then you have to separate $1 billion of your business. That was quite interesting.
How did you sell that internally? Because I imagine you probably weren't taken along the journey with that decision. It was kind of thrown on your plate. How did you manage that with the rest of the team?
Look, it was a global project, so it had to happen in a couple of countries, and we were lucky or unlucky enough to be in the first wave.
Yeah.
I think we gained that trust. I mean, I think when you get drawn into the first wave, being the pilot, that's also a sign of people trusting you and know what you're capable of.
Yeah.
And I don't think I did anything particular in that moment that made it work. I think it was the years before that I prepared the team for a moment like that. So it wasn't something I did in that moment. It was more...
Yep.
I built a very strong team, a very capable team. So they were all up for the challenge and said, okay, let's do it. And you know, the people working for me for a while know what type of leader I am, and that I would respect that. Obviously working from home, working through COVID, they also have families. I understand where their boundaries were. And I think the reason it worked wasn't because of what I did in that moment. The reason it worked is what I did in those years before, building the trust and understanding where boundaries are. And then people just follow and go because they know if ever then something goes wrong, I would prioritize them.
Yeah, no. And so it was only recently that you'd started the non-exec role with emergency services as well. So how did that come up?
I wanted since years kind of to give a bit back. And then I saw this role. I did the Australian Institute of Company Directors course a long time ago. And then I saw this role for a non-executive director at the Emergency Services Foundation come up. So what they do is they look after mental health for the emergency services workers in Victoria.
Okay.
So that's the fire, like professional and CFA,
yep.
ambulance, police, and a couple of other emergency services.
Right.
And that immediately struck me because having worked as a paramedic, I can fully resonate that these people, despite getting used to certain things, it is a different toll it takes on you than coming home from an office job. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously them looking for someone in their board with a risk and finance background was gold for me because I could bring together my past with my present.
Yeah.
And it's maybe one of the most rewarding things I did. Yes, it's obviously additional time investment in the evenings, on the weekends.
Is it volunteer or is it paid?
It's voluntary, yes. Yeah, okay. And obviously my main job is being the CFO, so I have to find time for that elsewhere. But Mercedes was supportive of me doing it, and I really take a lot out of it in various aspects. First of all, it shows the transferability of skill set, because I come from a multinational car manufacturer, financial services, and then you come to this local not-for-profit.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, maybe it would take me a while to find a way to be effective and help them, but it was pretty much spot on. And I think finance skills are so transferable between industries and so on. It's about being smart, understanding the challenge. But then once you have understood that, they all fit into the same framework at the end, right? Yeah. You have to do planning, you have to do budgeting, do some forecasting. You need to understand how people interact with each other, boards and CEOs. That's at the end of the day, there's humans at work. So these processes also are pretty similar at the end. So, and I really enjoy it, I must say. It's really very rewarding.
So how do you go about getting in non-exec role? Because I do get asked about it a lot, that people want to steer their career towards being a career non-exec person, and they're on about 10 different boards. But where do you start?
Look, for me, it started with the AICD course, and from the first day in Australia, I was an executive director of our 2 legal entities for Mercedes.
Okay, yeah.
So obviously, learn as you go. Then obviously doing some professional qualification. I think the biggest challenge in that role is to understand that in that Emergency Services Foundation, I'm a non-executive director, not a CFO. So you need to coach much more. You need to lead much more to questions and have to trust even more that the management we employ does the things within the boundaries we do. While then obviously 1 hour before you were in another meeting where you're the CFO. So you have to be very different and switching between these roles. Like if someone only has board roles, maybe I would assume it's maybe a bit easier because you're constantly in the same operating mode.
Yeah.
But I really have to switch between now you're a hands-on executive that has to really go down to the detail.
Yeah.
While when you're on the board level, you lead more to guardrails, to policies on a much broader level. And finding that right altitude is maybe one of the challenges. And
for getting it itself, though, is this just a networks thing, or did you apply and go through a process? How did you find it?
Look, this one was pretty cool, actually, because I found out who was the chair. I gave him a call and said who I am and what my background is. And honestly, this was maybe gold, right? Because I used to be a paramedic. So there's no doubt I don't understand what I'm talking about. I am a CFO. They're looking for someone with finance background. So it will be very hard to find someone equally qualified for that role. So maybe it was a bit of luck, but I was also looking long time, and it was not just going for any role. I wanted something that mattered to me. So when I spoke to Tony, who's the board chair, I also didn't need to prepare a long time for that call. Because I knew exactly this is what I want to do. So I just spoke to him why I want to do it. Again, being authentic.
Yeah. And that was first go? You weren't hustling?
And then I had a formal interview, obviously, afterwards with a couple of other board members and did a due diligence on the board rule and stuff like that, of course. Yeah. But first impression counts, right?
Definitely. And then so what, it's been 17-ish years with Mercedes. What does the next 12, 18 months look like?
Look, we have decided to stay here in Australia. So we are now citizens of Australia, which is fantastic. We love it here. My second child was born here. So we definitely see ourselves staying here in Australia.
And so what do you see as broader challenges in the market as a whole? It doesn't have to be Mercedes or automotive or et cetera. Specific could be accounting. What do you see are the bigger challenges that we're working through?
look, AI is obviously a topic for everyone.
Yeah.
I think it changes a lot the way we work. I think at Mercedes we are pretty good how we integrate it. I think we pretty early already purchased the language model of OpenAI and put it behind the firewall on our own servers. So we have like an Ask Mercedes or tool, but based on that, we then integrated with other platforms. Microsoft 360 we're using a lot. I think if you're all honest, we're using it. But then if you talk with power users, and for example, talking to you, Tom, the other day, I think you're very advanced in a lot of these topics. Made me think, okay, how can I use it even more?
Yeah.
I think we're all using it often as a better Google, right? Or to write letters or stuff like that. But that's maybe like the bottom 5% of the capability.
Sure.
I think there's a lot that changes there.
Yeah.
I think all the data topics and machines taking more decisions brings finance more on the playing pitch.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, if I look back 10 years ago, we would maybe give information to management to make decisions. These days, we are programming algorithms that make decisions, right? If I look at our scorecard that we use for our credit engine, that's developed by a lot of finance people, together with credit people, obviously, but where then the algorithm takes decisions. So I think it puts us more on the playing field.
Yeah.
I think it requires a change of the skill set in finance.
Okay.
I stole that from Deloitte, this concept of purple people.
Okay. Right.
But it resonated with me, so I'm talking about it all the time, but it was not my invention. So if blue is all the technical skills, your data mining, your SQL, your Excel, your Access, whatever it used to be.
Yeah.
And red is more the emotional aspects you find in marketing, right? The storytelling, how to connect to people, the empathy. Yeah. I think the finance teams of the future have to be purple.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of time with my team to make them more purple. So obviously a lot of the skill set while being hired is a bit more bluish. Try to put them into more uncomfortable situations where they have to present, where they have to talk about it. And tell the story of the numbers, not just present the numbers, and challenge them a lot in that. Okay, how to summarize that in 5 minutes, in 4 minutes, in 3 minutes. Yeah. I think storytelling is extremely underrated in finance, maybe one of the most important topics. We're even going to do a workshop with a professional acting company out of Sydney.
Okay. Yeah.
Like they usually do stage coaching.
Yeah.
And with finance people, that's obviously very interesting, and I think it's very important how to convey the information. Because what does it help you if you have all the facts if you can't? And really, if today their attention span is so low, if you haven't made the point within 20 seconds or 10 seconds, that's it. No one will give you 5 minutes, and here's number A and number B, and come on.
Yeah. And you see it quite a lot even with like interviews where they might have to present a case study at a final stage, or they're going through what a board pack might look like. When you have someone that can really deliver the story and deliver it properly, it makes such a difference.
100%. Yeah. So such an important skill to have, and also, what distinguishes perception, right? It's a bit unfair towards some of the experts because they might, at the end of the day, maybe when it comes to really operationally doing things, they might be better.
Sure.
But the perception is what counts, right, in such a short moment. But that's the same, like if you go to a board meeting, right? No one will give you like 20 minutes to explain.
No, definitely not. I think the purple people stuff's good. I might use that. It's classic consulting firm sort of jargon.
It's really cool.
That's good. Well, you've been great, Raf. I've really enjoyed hearing about you're working with purpose, and the purple people stuff sounds awesome. I think listeners will really resonate with it. So I really appreciate your time. If the listeners have any questions or want to reach out, is that something you'd be open to?
Yeah, 100%. Always great to meet new people, and please do so either via Tom or via my LinkedIn. Yeah,
perfect. We'll put the links out when we go live. But thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for listening to the CFO Track. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. I'll see you next time.